Welcome to part 2 of this tutorial. Today we are going to make it so that all of these characters are in a character select screen, that when you select the character, it will take you to the battle. So first of all, we got a little problem. All these characters are way too small. So let's make them all a little bit bigger. I'm going to select them all individually and just multiply their scale by 10. So instead of 1 right here, I'm going to make that 10, this one 20, this one 30, and then I'm going to do that with all of the rest of these characters. We're going to want these all straightened out, so I'm going to select them all and change their position to 0, 0, 0. I'm also going to change the camera's position to 0, 0, 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all of these a child of the camera by dragging these right here. Alright, now to straighten all these up, I'm going to select all of them and change the rotation to -90, 180, 0. Alright, now to make this next part look really good, your numbers might be different than mine, but I'm going to select 1 through 3, change the y value to 0.3, and change the z value to 1.5. I'm going to select 4, 5, and 6, change the y value to -0.2, and change the z value to 1.5. And lastly, on 7, 8, and 9, I'm going to change the y value to -0.7. I'm going to change the z value to 1.5. Now for numbers 1, 4, and 7, I'm going to change the x position to -1, and I'm going to change the z rotation to -25. And lastly, for 3, 6, and 9, the x position to +1, and the z rotation to a +25. Alright, now I'm going to right click right here, create a 3D object, and this one's going to be a plane. The plane is also going to be connected to the main camera. I'm going to center it at 0. And I'm going to change the x rotation to a -90 and the z position to a +4. Alright, so what does it look like? I like to move the game tab down to here and change the free aspect to 16:9. And this is what our game looks like so far. I don't like how tall this character is. I'm actually going to change its length from a 30 to a 20. Alright, so we need to actually be able to choose a character now, and for that, every single one of these guys are going to need a box collider. So I'm going to add component box collider, and now we're going to create a script to choose the character. Now this script is going to be on the camera, so I'm going to click the camera, add component, and type in choose character, and create a new script from that. Alright, now we're in Visual Studio. We're not actually going to need a start, we're only going to need update, and in the update, we would like to know when the mouse button is clicked. We're going to use a ray cast in order to get the ray of wherever the mouse position is. We're also going to make sure that the ray actually hits something with some if statements. We're going to pass it through a method in a script that we haven't actually created yet. It's called selectedCharacter.selected, and set it equal to the name of the thing that we just hit. Now let's actually create that class called selectedCharacter. Got a new C# script called selectedCharacter. This is actually going to be a static class, which means we can get rid of monoBehavior and the start and update. We're going to want a string variable and a getter and setter for that string variable. So now what we have is when we click on a character, it is going to select that character, pass it through here, and save it into this. We have to save it here because we're now going to change scenes into the battle scene instead of the select character scene, and we want to be able to pass that value right through. So a couple more things to do in the choose character class. Right here we're going to change the scene to the battle scene. We're going to have to click this to get this line of code right here in order to actually use the scene manager. And last but not least, we do not want to be able to select the background as a character, so we're going to put another condition right here to make sure the thing we're selecting is not the plane. Alright, so we're going to add our second scene. Make sure this scene is saved by pressing Ctrl S. I'm going to rename it. And now I'm going to hold Control, grab the scene, and drop it right next to itself to copy it. I'll rename this one. Now we're in the battle scene. We do not want the characters to be visible, but we do want them to exist so we can grab them later. So I'm going to move them off to the side. On the camera on this scene, I'm going to get rid of the choose character script because we don't want that anymore. However, I'm going to add another script that we're going to call battling. In the battling script, we're going to have two game objects, the player and the enemy. And when the scene first loads on the start, we're going to define the player and the enemy. Right here, we're using GameObject.find to find a character that matches the name that we stored in that variable earlier. And the enemy is going to be a random character. We will create this method in a moment. I'm now going to set the player transform position and rotation to some numbers that fit the frame of the camera pretty well. For the enemy, I'm going to use a similar position and rotation, so I'm just going to copy and paste and change the numbers. Now I'm going to create a method in order to actually choose a random character. It's going to return a game object. We're going to need a variable called name. We want to make sure that the enemy is not the exact same character as the player, so to start off, let's make it that way. And then as long as it actually is that name, we're going to choose a random different one. This makes sure that if it does randomly choose the exact same character you're playing as, then it will loop back and choose a different character before it actually plays. The range is going from 1 to 10 because the 10 is exclusive, and we already know that our characters range from 1 to 9. And it is toString because the name of the character is a string and not an actual integer. We need to go ahead and add both of these scenes to the build settings by clicking File, Build Settings. Add the character select scene first. Double-click the battle scene and add it second. Let's go back to the character select screen and press play. Now for every character we choose, our character will show up on the left and a random character will show up on the right. Here's one more example. We want to add some stats to these characters, but in order to do that, they need to be prefabs. I forgot to make these prefabs earlier, so what I'm going to do is make a new folder, drag them in one by one, and then in the battle scene, I'm going to replace all of these guys with the version and move them out of the way like we did last time. We can now select all 9 prefabs at the bottom, scroll down here, and add component. Our component's going to be monster stats. And in our monster stats, we're not actually going to need a start or an update. We're just going to add some stats that you can change whenever you want to. Now what you can do is select the prefab down here, scroll to the very bottom, and you can change these stats to be whatever you would like them to be. I'm just going to choose some random numbers right now for that, and you can change the stats on all of them to be whatever you want them to be. I'll do that between videos, but thanks for watching. Get ready for part 3.